Hello and welcome to Baking on a Budget. Now this time we have this fantastic cinnamon swirl recipe. These are very simple to make, absolutely delicious, and only 20p a piece. Now I have all of the materials over here, quite a few different materials for the dough, for the filling and for the frosting, but we have them all over here. I'm going to run through exactly how much we've got and how much all of this costs. For the dough recipe, we have 210 grams of plain flour at 11p. We have 30 grams of sugar at 4p. We have a pinch of salt. We have 1 teaspoon of dried yeast. We have 60 ml of warm water. We have 20 ml of whole milk. We have 20 grams of butter, and we have 1 egg. So this is going to be a really nice rich dough. Now for the filling, we have 35 grams of butter, we have 30 grams of brown sugar, and we have 3 teaspoons of cinnamon powder. Now for the frosting which goes on top of these, we have 60 grams of icing sugar at 15p. We have 1 tablespoon of milk at about 1p. We have half a teaspoon of vanilla extract at 6p. And we have 35 grams of softened butter at 20p. So if we put all that together, this comes to £1.37, and we're going to get 6 delicious cinnamon swirls out of this, making each one 22p each. Okay, first thing to do is put the dough together, so let's get on to that. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, we've got here, as I say, 60 ml of warm water. I'm going to just put a little bit of the sugar in there, about a teaspoon of the sugar, and with that we will put this teaspoon of dried yeast. Now, I will save that for a later recipe. And we just want to stir this together, mix it all up. Then we'll set this aside for about 15 minutes. The yeast should froth up if it is still active, and that will be good to go. And whilst that yeast is doing its thing, we are going to put the milk in here. This is 20 ml of milk, and that's going in there with 20 grams of butter. And I'm just going to melt this on the hob. It doesn't need a great heat, just until the butter is melted. Okay, now that has melted in seconds flat, really. So that's looking good. Next thing we want to do is just crack this egg and just prepare all the ingredients for this dough before we actually start making it. So we've got the egg in there. We'll just give that a quick beat. That will do just fine. And at this point the yeast has started to bloom as well, so this is all good. Now, to make this dough, we're going to put the flour, that's 210 grams of plain flour. With that we want a pinch of salt, and then we want to add, the sugar, mix all that in, and then to that we'll start to add the wet ingredients. So, first of all, in goes the yeast, and then we have the butter and milk mix, and lastly the egg. Very good. Now I'm going to bring this together with the spoon. This will be quite a wet dough to begin with, and it will need some kneading and on a good floured board, but we just want to bring all that together first. Get all the stuff off the side of the ball. That's looking good. As you can see, that is quite a wet and sticky dough, so we're going to put a good dusting of flour on the board and an equally good dusting of flour on the hands. Now we'll bring this out of the bowl, and really we just want to knead this for about 10 minutes, just like any other bread recipe, really. Again, this could be done in a stand mixer, if you have a stand mixer. I don't use one, I don't have one, and I prefer really to knead dough by hand. As I say, it's 10 minutes, quite a contemplative sort of exercise, really. So I'm going to get on with this, and we'll find in about 10 minutes time this will go nice and smooth and springy, and then we can let it prove. Okay, 10 minutes later, the dough is a lot less sticky, much smoother, and I'm saying that is ready to go. I'll just put a little flour on the board there whilst I clean up this bowl. I'm going to sit the dough back in there, let it proof for 1 hour. Okay, now I'm just going to put a little drizzle of oil in the bowl to stop the dough from sticking too much, and we'll just coat the inside of the bowl with that. Stick our dough in, cover it up, and as I say, that's 1 hour in a warmish draft-free place, and that should double in size. And whilst the dough is rising, what I'm going to do is just make this filling. We have here the brown sugar. How much of that was? 30 grams of brown sugar. I'm going to put that in this little glass, and we want 3 teaspoons of cinnamon in there. There's 1, there's 2, and there is 3. Now I'm just going to combine that, mix that all together, and this will be going in the middle of the dough. Once we flatten this dough out, we'll put a covering of this beautiful sugar and cinnamon mix in there. Now for that we also want the butter, and this does want to be quite soft. It's fairly cold in the kitchen today, so what I'm going to do is put the hob on, and I'll just stand that next to it to allow it to soften up. The other element of this is the frosting. Now for the frosting we have 600 grams of icing sugar or confectioner's sugar. Now one of my plans here is I'm going to do a video in the near future which would be money saving tips for the kitchen, because confectioner's sugar or icing sugar is about twice the price of normal granulated sugar, but it is possible to make this yourself, and I will show you how to do that in another video. Right, so we've got the milk in there. Now what we also want is some of this vanilla essence, just about half a teaspoon of that. And then essentially we just want to bring this together. The butter is slightly soft, could be a little bit softer I suppose, but we'll just keep working this until it forms a beautiful vanilla frosting. A couple of ways you can do this. You can actually do this with cream cheese, which I'm sure would be very nice. And you can indeed leave the butter out of this particular recipe, and it would make more like a drizzle for the top of the cinnamon swirls. Now I'm saying that's good enough, so I'm going to put this one back in the fridge for a while, and then as soon as that dough has doubled in size, we'll get on with the next step of this. 1 hour later, there it is. That dough has doubled in size, risen beautifully. We're going to get it out of this bowl onto our bench, and we just want to knock the air out of that. So it's not really another kneading, it's just to get any built up gases out of the dough first. So there it goes. That will do it. Now I'm going to put a little bit of flour. You may be able to hear a small child in the background, that's alright, it's my granddaughter, and I'm just teaching her very young here to get into the baking, and she's just watching, and she may do a bit of commentary later. But what we're going to do is roll this out. There it is, and we want to get this into like an oblong shape, and however we can get that done really, I mean we can stretch it out a bit like a pizza base, and then when we get close to that we can roll it out again, make it a little bit flatter, and what we're aiming for is a rectangle about so long and about so deep, and that is coming along just fine. Just make sure that we've got enough there. We'd get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, so this is good. That's about the right sort of shape and size we want. What we want to do is put the butter on this. Now I've had this softening just close to the hob for a while, and that looks soft enough to me, so I'm going to try that. Yes, that's fine. What we want to do is just give this whole thing a good coating of the butter, and with a bit of luck there'll be just enough here. That's it. I'm just using the back of the spoon for this. You could use a spatula or a flat knife or anything you want really. Main thing to do is to get the whole thing covered like so. Right, now if you remember from earlier, we have here the brown sugar and cinnamon, and what we're going to do with this one is just spread it over the whole of the thing. I'll do that with my hands actually, it'll be easier. We want all of this distributed across this buttery dough. Look at that. Can I just say whilst I'm doing this, if you're enjoying the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more very simple and delicious recipes like this in the future, do consider subscribing to the channel, for there are many more recipes to come. There we are. Right, I'm seeing that is a-okay. A little bit more over there, a little bit more there. Right, now what we want to do is roll this up. And the best way I've found to do that is just a little bit at a time. Just want to fold the first section of it over, and then you want to keep it fairly tight, like that, and that will be spot on. That, I'm seeing, is looking good. Now, I prepared this dish earlier, and this has some greaseproof paper in the bottom and is greased around the outside. So, as I say, we want to cut this into 3. I'll just take these ends off, just for the sake of neatness. Now, we want this into 6, right? So we're saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's about it there. So we want to cut that. Just nip the dough together down the side of it, and then it will stand in this dish. Rightio. Now, what we're going to do with these is cover them with a clean tea towel, and we just want to cover them. You can put a couple of pleats in the towel if you want to, so they're not too tight. Now this is going to get its second proving, so I'm going to put it somewhere nice and warm, draft free, leave it for an hour, then we'll come back to it. Okay, and after another hour in the oven, there they are. They are looking delicious. Now, what I'm going to do with these is put them back in the oven at this point at 190 degrees centigrade for about 15 to 20 minutes. So we'll just let the oven get up to temperature and then we'll pop them in. Okay, and just over 15 minutes later, look at them. They look delicious, and I've got to say the smell in here, absolutely beautiful. Right, we're going to let these cool for a couple of minutes, get some frosting on, and then we'll have a taste. The only thing left to do with these is to put some of this delicious frosting on them. Now they are still a little bit warm. I can't wait. I'm going to have to eat one. Yes, hello Isla, hello. We're just going to spread some of this frosting on them like this. That is going to be delicious. And once we've got all of these done, it's time for the taste test. Can't wait. Well, I've got to say, that looks and smells delicious. I'm going to cut a piece off. I'll show you this texture, close up of the texture of this. Then we will have a little taste of it. They are beautiful and soft. Look at this. The texture inside is absolutely fantastic. Cinnamon and the butter in there. This is marvellous. And the frosting on top, and I will have a taste. That is delicious. That is a really easy cinnamon swirl recipe, and these come out, as I say, at only 22 pence each, and really scrumptious. Still a little bit warm, but beautifully soft. So there it is, a cinnamon swirl recipe. Very easy, absolutely delicious, only 22 pence a piece. Marvellous. Now, can I just say, if you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more videos like this in the future, very easy to prepare recipes, always very inexpensive and always absolutely delicious, do please consider subscribing to the channel. And in the meantime, I'm going to finish off the rest of this swirl, and I thank you very much for watching.